the birth of darkness and light. In the restless summer of 1571, beneath a sky heavy with the smoke of war and disease, a child was born in the small town of Caravaggio, Lombardy. Michelangelo Merisi entered a world fractured by plague and political turmoil, a world where light was rare and shadows deep. His arrival was a quiet flicker in the vast dark, but his spirit would burn brighter than most. From infancy, tragedy stalked Michelangelo's life. The plague swept mercilessly through Milan, claiming his father when Michelangelo was only a boy. The loss shattered his family, leaving him orphaned of paternal guidance, forced into the harsh streets of the city that shaped his soul. Poverty was not merely a condition but a living, breathing force that shaped his view of humanity. Yet within this crucible of suffering, Michelangelo's eyes absorbed the raw truths of life. Beggars, thieves, prostitutes, they were not mere shadows but the essence of existence. They were the stories he longed to tell with brush and pigment, not the sanitized saints and angels dictated by the church. His apprenticeship with local painters was a battleground of wills. The rigid, classical teachings clashed violently with Michelangelo's raw, instinctive vision. His brush sought not beauty in perfection but truth in imperfection, a brutal, fierce honesty that unsettled his masters. The young rebel's Rome. In his early 20s, Michelangelo arrived in Rome, a city of contradictions, grandeur, and decay. Here, the young artist found a stage worthy of his tempestuous talent. The Renaissance had given way to the Baroque, and Rome was hungry for art that moved the soul and shook the foundations of tradition. Michelangelo's paintings arrived like thunder, shocking in their realism, pulsing with light and shadow in a way no one had dared before. His Boy with a Basket of Fruit stunned viewers with its vivid detail, the flesh glowing with a lifelike warmth that defied the era's delicate idealizations. Yet his most famous works were darker, filled with tension and raw human emotion. The Calling of St. Matthew broke conventions. Here, light did not halo divine figures but sliced through the grime of a tavern, illuminating doubt and salvation in the same breath. Matthew was not an untouchable saint but a man trapped between worlds. A life on the edge. But Michelangelo was as volatile as his brushstrokes. His temper was legendary, his fists quick to fly. In Rome's taverns and streets, he fought duels and made enemies as easily as he made masterpieces. His patrons, torn between admiration and fear, oscillated between protecting and condemning him. His studio was a den of sinners, with models from the city's underworld, prostitutes and thieves, posed as angels and martyrs, challenging the sacred ideals of the church. Despite the chaos, his star ascended rapidly. He became the darling of powerful families like the Colonnas and the Giustiniani, whose commissions funded his restless genius. The Fall, Blood and Exile. In 1606, tragedy struck. A violent duel in a Roman piazza led to the death of a man. Caravaggio fled, branded a fugitive by the papal authorities. His Rome was gone, the city that once celebrated him now hunted him. Exile was brutal. He roamed Naples, Malta, Sicily, places filled with both danger and inspiration. His art grew darker, heavier, more desperate. His beheading of St. John the Baptist, painted in Malta, is a monumental testament to his tortured soul, an unflinching portrayal of violence and redemption. The final years and death. In his last years, Caravaggio sought redemption. Letters to the Pope begged forgiveness. He dreamed of returning to Rome and reclaiming his place. But fate was cruel. In 1610, near Porto Ercole, weakened and haunted, he died mysteriously. Some say poisoning, others disease. His tumultuous life ended far from the city that shaped him. Legacy, the light that never fades. Caravaggio's legacy is eternal. His dramatic realism transformed Western art, influencing countless artists. His chiaroscuro technique became a signature of Baroque painting. His paintings reveal not just scenes but souls, frail, conflicted, human. The painter's studio, a theater of light and flesh. Caravaggio's studio was no mere workshop. It was a stage set for the collision of divinity and flesh, a place where sacred stories were stripped of pomp and laid bare in all their human messiness. Models came from Rome's darkest corners, thieves with haunted eyes, prostitutes with scars both visible and invisible, peasants whose hands told tales of relentless labor. They posed not as mythical idealizations but as raw embodiments of human struggle and grace. In this cramped, dimly lit space, Michelangelo played with shadows and light, transforming dirt-streaked faces into saints and sinners alike. Each brushstroke was a battle, between light and dark, beauty and brutality, faith and doubt. His process was frenetic, often violent. He pushed models to their limits, demanding not just poses but emotions: fear, hope, despair, ecstasy. The studio echoed with shouts, laughter, curses, and the scratch of bristles on canvas. The controversies: art at war with morality. Caravaggio's art was a scandal wrapped in genius. His blunt realism offended many, especially church officials who preferred divine figures cloaked in otherworldly light. Critics accused him of vulgarity, blasphemy even. Saints were portrayed as drunks. Angels bore the faces of street urchins. The sacred was dragged into the mud of human existence. Yet this very scandal was his power. Through controversy, Caravaggio forced viewers to confront uncomfortable truths: the fragility of faith, the weight of sin, the possibility of redemption in the flawed flesh. Throughout his career, Caravaggio navigated a web of patrons, rivals, and admirers. The Medici, the Barberini, the Colonna families vied for his genius. Rival painters seethed with jealousy. Some accused him of theft, others of debauchery. Yet none could deny his unparalleled skill. His fiery personality ignited rivalries and friendships alike. The artist was as feared as he was revered. Personal battles, love, loss, and madness. Behind the public tempest was a man wrestling with inner demons. Some historians suggest Caravaggio's intense emotions were fueled by turbulent love affairs and unspoken desires. His life was marked by loneliness, betrayal, and mental torment. Episodes of madness, depression, and rage punctuated his existence. These personal battles bled onto his canvas, giving birth to images that pulsate with raw human feeling. Sometimes tender, sometimes violent, always unforgettable. The myth and the man, Caravaggio's enduring mystery. To this day, Caravaggio remains a figure shrouded in myth. Was he a mad genius or a tormented soul seeking salvation? A criminal or a saint? The man and his myth have become inseparable. His paintings speak across centuries, inviting us to look deeper, beyond the light and shadows, into the heart of humanity itself. The early years, childhood in Caravaggio and Milan. Michelangelo Merisi was born into a world where light struggled to penetrate the dense shadows of hardship. The small town of Caravaggio was modest, but it bore the weight of Italy's political turmoil and relentless outbreaks of plague. His family was humble, and early on, tragedy would shape his path. When Michelangelo was still a child, the plague swept through Milan, claiming the life of his father and leaving his family fractured. This loss was a cruel tutor. It forced young Michelangelo to face mortality and suffering before he had even learned to wield a brush. But the streets became his true classroom. Milan's alleys were filled with faces that told stories no textbook ever could. Beggars with hollow eyes, mothers clinging to dying children, thieves skulking in shadows, all became his earliest subjects. He learned to see beyond the surface, to capture the soul in its rawest form. Apprenticeship and rebellion. Determined to become a painter, Michelangelo sought apprenticeship under established masters. But his rebellious spirit was ill-suited for the strict, classical teachings of the time. He resisted the idealized forms and polished perfection demanded by his mentors. Instead, he pursued a radical realism, painting with a fury and honesty that unsettled those around him. His early works revealed a deep empathy for the flawed and the forsaken, a theme that would define his entire career. Arrival in Rome, the city of contrasts. By his early 20s, Caravaggio had moved to Rome, a city of grandeur and decay, sacred and profane. The bustling capital was both intimidating and inspiring for the young artist. Rome was hungry for change. The Renaissance had faded, the Baroque era was dawning, and with it came a thirst for art that stirred the soul. Caravaggio's dramatic use of chiaroscuro, the stark contrast of light and shadow, captivated patrons and critics alike. Breakthrough masterpieces. His painting Boy with a Basket of Fruit stunned viewers with lifelike detail and vitality. Yet his true breakthrough came with the Calling of St. Matthew, where divine light pierces a dim tavern, illuminating doubt and grace simultaneously. The scene was revolutionary in its portrayal of holiness intertwined with everyday humanity. Turmoil and temper. Caravaggio's tempestuous nature was inseparable from his art. His fiery temper led to fights and duels, threatening his career. But his charisma and genius won powerful patrons who protected and enabled him despite his flaws. Scandal and exile. The violent altercation in 1606 marked a turning point. Forced to flee Rome, Caravaggio's life became a fugitive's odyssey through southern Italy and Malta. His art darkened, mirroring his exile and despair. Maltese Nights and final attempts at redemption. In Malta he was briefly honored with knighthood, but his violent behavior led to his expulsion. Yet even in exile, his creative fire burned. His beheading of St. John the Baptist stands as a masterpiece of raw human emotion and divine tragedy. Death and enduring influence. In 1610, Caravaggio died under mysterious circumstances near Porto Ercole. His death was as tumultuous as his life, shrouded in rumors and speculation. Despite his tragic end, his influence reshaped European art, inspiring generations to embrace the interplay of light and shadow, both on canvas and within the human soul. Legacy, the eternal dance of light and shadow. Caravaggio's legacy endures as a testament to art's power to reveal uncomfortable truths. His radical realism and dramatic contrast changed the way we see humanity, flawed, fragile, yet radiant. His paintings continue to captivate, challenge, and inspire, reminding us that light cannot exist without shadow,